My in-laws banned me from my own baby shower because I'm too white for their daughter. So I went nuclear and showed everyone what they said about me in a secret group chat. Now they're disowned. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I've been with my wife Carla, female 30, for 6 years, married for 3. She's Indian American. Her parents moved to the US from Gujarat back in the early 90s, and I'm white. She's currently 7 months pregnant with our first baby, which we're both super excited about. We met at my college friend's housewarming party, where we bonded over both having just watched this super obscure documentary series about abandoned places. We ended up talking in the kitchen for literally like 3 hours while everyone else was partying in the living room. Her parents, Raymond and Sharon, are both doctors. He's a cardiologist and she's a pediatrician. When I first met them, they seemed pretty welcoming. Not like super warm or anything, but polite and willing to get to know me. But over time, especially after we got engaged, things have gotten progressively colder and honestly kind of uncomfortable. I've tried really hard to embrace Carla's culture. I spent like 6 months trying to learn Hindi through Duolingo. I ended up giving up after only mastering basic phrases. Turns out I'm terrible at languages, lol. I enthusiastically participate in all the family celebrations, Diwali, Holi, etc. I wear the traditional clothes to family functions, even though I sometimes feel a bit self-conscious. I mean, I'm trying my best here. Oh, and one time Sharon spent like 45 minutes teaching me how to properly eat with my hands for this traditional meal, and I thought we were having this nice bonding moment. But later, I overheard her telling Carla that I ate like a toddler. That stung, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to cause problems. When we announced the pregnancy, things actually seemed to get better for a while. We had dinner at their place a few months back, and Sharon literally cried happy tears. Raymond even initiated a conversation with me about cricket that lasted more than 5 minutes, which was basically a record for us. I thought maybe the baby would bring us all closer together. Yeah, that didn't last long. But then things started to shift when the discussions about baby traditions began. Sharon basically took over planning the baby shower without even asking me for input. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured maybe it's traditionally more of a mom thing. But then I started noticing conversations would abruptly stop when I walked into a room. When I offered to help with preparations, I'd get vague excuses about how everything was already handled. And I get that maybe there are some cultural traditions I don't understand, but shouldn't I at least be included in planning stuff for my baby? So about a month ago, I finally asked Carla directly what my role in the shower would be, and the excuses started coming. First, it was that the shower was women only, which made sense to me initially, but then I later found out that several of Carla's male cousins were invited, including her cousin Trevor, who I've met like twice. Then the story changed to it being a traditional Indian celebration that I wouldn't understand. I mean, how am I supposed to understand if no one will explain it to me or include me? Finally, after more pressing, Carla reluctantly told me that her mom had said my presence would make everyone uncomfortable and that I should respect their culture by staying away. Carla looked really uncomfortable telling me this, but she didn't push back on her parents at all. She just said she was too exhausted from the pregnancy to fight about it. I mean, I get pregnancy is hard, but this felt like something worth standing up for. I didn't want to push her, because she's been having a rough time with morning sickness that's lasted way longer than it should. I was honestly hurt, but I pretended to be fine because I didn't want to stress Carla out. She's already dealing with a difficult pregnancy. But privately, I'm worried that this is just the beginning of me being pushed out of my own child's life before they're even born. Like what happens when they want to exclude me from other cultural stuff for the baby. Will I just be the white guy who's allowed to pay for everything but not actually participate? Last week, we had dinner at the in-laws' house, and the shower came up again. I asked what time I should take off work for the shower, trying to sound casual. Sharon and Raymond exchanged this look that was so obvious. Raymond suddenly became super interested in his food, avoiding eye contact completely. When I asked what time I should plan to arrive, Sharon told me it was primarily a women's gathering. Carla just stared at her plate and said nothing. Nothing. I offered to just help set up and then leave if that would be better. Sharon responded that these ceremonies have specific cultural requirements, and Raymond added that some traditions are better kept authentic. I remembered they had mentioned Carla's cousin Trevor would be there, so I pointed that out. Sharon quickly said that was different because Trevor understands their ways. I just fell silent after that. Carla squeezed my hand under the table, but didn't say a single word in my defense. I felt so alone sitting there. I just pushed my food around the plate for the rest of dinner, barely ate anything. The ride home was so quiet and awkward. Here's where things get even worse. Yesterday, my phone died while we were at her parents' house. I asked Carla if I could use her phone to check something, and she said sure. While I was using it, WhatsApp notifications kept popping up from a group called Family Celebration, with my name mentioned alongside words like problem and respect. I know I probably shouldn't have, but I opened the chat out of concern. What I found was months of messages from her parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, basically the entire extended family, saying horrible things about me. Sharon called me a culturally illiterate white boy and not good enough for our daughter. There were detailed plans to ensure the baby would only have an Indian name, despite Carla and I already agreeing we'd honor both our heritages. They discussed strategies to limit my influence on raising our child. Multiple people commented about never wanting Carla to marry outside their culture. And explicitly, there were several messages about not wanting me at the shower because I'm too white and would contaminate the spiritual energy. Multiple family members even speculated that our marriage would fail within 5 years. My hands were literally shaking so bad I could barely screenshot the messages. I took screenshots of the worst messages. Carla is in this group chat too, but from what I could see, she rarely responds beyond occasional logistical questions about the shower. I honestly don't know if she's seen these messages or if she just ignores them. Part of me is scared that she might secretly agree with some of this stuff. But that doesn't make sense because she's always been so loving towards me and she never seemed to care about the cultural differences before. I'm completely lost on what to do now. Should I confront her parents directly? Talk to Carla first. I love my wife and I'm excited for our baby, but I'm worried I'm going to be constantly pushed aside because I'm not Indian. I don't want to be seen as the bad guy here, but I also need to stand up for myself and my place in my child's life. This is so stressful. I literally haven't slept in like 2 days, just turning this over in my head. We should be focusing on getting ready for the baby, and instead, I'm dealing with this racism from people who are supposed to be family. My parents have been amazing throughout all this, by the way. They've been learning about Indian traditions and even trying to cook Indian food with mixed results, lol, to make Carla feel welcome. Why can't her family show me the same respect? Edit. To clarify, since several people have asked, Carla has always been caught in the middle with her family. She was raised very traditionally and still struggles to stand up to her parents. I know she loves me, but the pregnancy has made her extra emotional and eager to please her family. I'm trying to be understanding, but this feels like a breaking point. Some are asking why I married into a family with these values. Honestly, they weren't this bad at first. The racist stuff was way more subtle before, and Carla is nothing like them in terms of prejudice. The cultural pride seemed normal and even something I admired until it turned exclusionary. Yes, I've considered the possibility that Carla is more involved in these discussions than I initially thought. That's what scares me the most, that she might secretly agree with some of what they're saying. But she's never given me any reason to think she holds those views. She's always been very loving and inclusive. Maybe she's just conflict avoidant. Her parents are pretty intimidating people. Lots of people asking about the specific messages. There were too many to list, but some examples. Sharon wrote that I will never understand their traditions and will raise the child to be just another American with no connection to their heritage. Raymond said, this is what happens when they let their daughters marry whoever they want instead of finding suitable matches. Carla's aunt wrote something like, at least the baby will be 50% Indian. They can make sure that side is dominant. And Trevor, who is apparently welcome at the shower, said give it 5 years max before she realizes her mistake and finds a nice Indian boy instead. Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented with advice and support. I honestly didn't expect so many responses. After reading all your comments, I decided to talk to Carla before confronting her parents directly, thanks to everyone who suggested this approach. I waited until after dinner, when we were both relaxed. Well, as relaxed as possible given the circumstances. I sat down with her on the couch and just said, We needed to talk about something important. I showed her the screenshots I'd taken of the group chat. Her face just, I don't even know how to describe it. She kept scrolling through them and occasionally would gasp or make this little sound in her throat. It was pretty clear from her reaction that she hadn't seen a lot of the worst comments, or at least that's what she claimed. She started crying and said she had seen some of the messages but had been compartmentalizing because of pregnancy stress. She said she'd mostly just been skimming for logistical stuff about the shower and ignoring the rest. I mean, I want to believe her, but I also don't know how she could miss some of this stuff. Like, her own mother calling me a culturally illiterate white boy isn't exactly subtle. We ended up talking for literally 4 hours, until 1 a.m., even though we both had work the next day. She apologized over and over for not standing up for me. She explained that her whole life she's felt this enormous pressure to maintain cultural traditions and meet her parents' expectations. She told me this story about when she was 16. Her best friend at the time was having this big, sweet 16 party that she'd been looking forward to for months. But it fell on the same day as some religious ceremony, and her parents forbid her from going. She went to the ceremony instead and ended up losing that friendship because her friend thought she ditched her for no reason. Her parents wouldn't let her explain the real reason because it would make them look bad. She said that's just one example of how she was raised to always put family obligations and cultural traditions above everything else. And her parents would make her feel incredibly guilty if she ever questioned anything. I could tell she was really torn between her family loyalty and our marriage. She admitted she sometimes downplayed her parents' behavior because she'd been taught that family disputes should stay private. But then she realized that value was basically being weaponized against me to keep me isolated and unable to defend myself. After talking through everything, we decided together that I would be attending the shower, despite her parents' ban. Carla called her mom the next morning to tell her. I was sitting right next to her during the call. Oh man, her mom flipped out. Sharon threatened to cancel the entire shower, and Raymond got on the phone warning that certain relatives might not come if Jake is there. I honestly thought they might back down once they realized Carla was serious. Maybe this was all just a test to see how far they could push things. I was so naive, lol. We spent the next couple days preparing for the potential confrontation. We saved the screenshots to both our phones, just in case, and even practiced calm responses to potential accusations. I told Carla I wasn't nervous, but honestly, I barely slept the night before the shower. 2 days before the shower, Carla's sister Holly called. This conversation was illuminating. Holly asked if I was really coming to the shower. Carla confirmed I was, stating that I'm her husband and the baby's father. Holly mentioned that their mom was having a meltdown about it and had called several relatives to complain. When I asked Holly if she knew about what they'd been saying in the group chat, she admitted seeing some of it but dismissed it as just venting. She claimed she only engaged with the nice comments about the baby. Carla asked why Holly never stood up for me, but Holly got defensive, saying she was caught in the middle and couldn't take sides in a family matter. Carla pointed out that disrespecting me was disrespecting her too. Holly just wanted to get through the shower first and talk about it later. The call ended with Holly promising to try to keep the peace, but making no real commitment to support us. That conversation made it pretty clear we'd be walking into this shower mostly on our own. The day of the shower finally arrived. We decided to go together, which caused immediate hushed conversations and uncomfortable stares when we walked in. Sharon and Raymond gave us minimal polite greetings before basically pretending I didn't exist. The extended family had mixed reactions. Some seemed genuinely happy to see me. Others were clearly uncomfortable with my presence. This one elderly uncle cornered me for 20 solid minutes to discuss American football, seemingly completely oblivious to all the tension around us. Honestly, it was kind of a relief, lol. During the gift opening part, I caught Carla's eye and she gave me this nervous but supportive nod. I politely asked for everyone's attention. So, I need to explain that the venue had this big TV display set up for showing some slideshow of baby pictures of Carla or something. I happen to work in IT, so I was able to quickly connect my phone to it. Probably the only time my tech skills have been useful at a family gathering, lol. I simply stated, I recently discovered why I wasn't welcome at my own child's celebration, and then displayed some of the screenshots. The reaction was immediate. Sharon jumped up screaming that these were private conversations taken out of context. What context makes calling someone a culturally illiterate white boy okay? Raymond just stood there looking embarrassed but saying nothing, typical. This elderly aunt kept asking someone to translate what was happening. Carla's cousin Trevor, the one who was somehow welcome at the shower despite being male, looked so uncomfortable and wouldn't make eye contact with me. Sharon tried to turn off the TV display and ended up knocking over this huge centerpiece with flowers everywhere. Carla physically stepped in front of her mother and said, "No, everyone should see the truth about how you've been talking about my husband." Raymond finally spoke up, saying, "This is not how respectable people handle disagreements." Rich coming from him. I tried to stay calm and just said, "I respect your culture, but I expect respect as my child's father." Sharon started yelling about cultural sabotage and how I was embarrassing the family. Pretty sure they were the ones who did that. Then Carla stood up. She was visibly shaking, but her voice was so steady. She announced that we were leaving and wouldn't be in contact until her parents showed genuine respect for both of us. Sharon yelled something about Carla choosing a white man over her heritage and family as we walked out. Some relatives looked genuinely ashamed, while others glared at me like I was the problem. We literally just walked out with several guests watching in shocked silence. Holly followed us outside, looking torn but offering no real support beyond saying, "I wish this hadn't happened." Thanks a lot, Holly. The drive home was mostly silent. Carla and I held hands over the center console but barely spoke. I think we were both processing everything. Since then, Carla has been really quiet. I've caught her crying a few times when she thinks I'm not looking. I feel united with her in our stance, but I'm worried about the stress this is putting on her pregnancy and her relationship with her family. But what was I supposed to do? Just let them keep insulting me behind my back and pushing me out of my child's life? I don't know if I did the right thing. I mean, I felt good in the moment standing up for myself, but seeing how sad Carla is now, I just don't know. Maybe I should have found a less public way to address it. But after months of being excluded and insulted, I just couldn't take it anymore. Edit. A lot of people are asking if Carla really didn't know about the messages. Honestly, I believe her when she says she didn't read most of them. You have to understand, she's been getting like 50+ messages a day about the shower planning, and she's been exhausted from the pregnancy. I think she probably saw some of the negative comments, but was in denial about how bad it was. When she saw everything together in the screenshots, she was genuinely shocked by some of the worst ones. Edit 2. For those saying I should have handled it privately instead of causing a scene, I did try that approach first. I asked Carla to talk to her parents, and their response was to threaten to cancel the entire shower. They gave us no choice but to confront them publicly. To the person who asked what I'm hoping will happen next, honestly, I'm not sure. In an ideal world, her parents would realize they've been terrible and sincerely apologize, but I'm not holding my breath. Right now, I'm mostly focused on supporting Carla through the rest of her pregnancy without additional stress. For those asking about the Sweet 16 story, yeah, that was just one example of many controlling behaviors from her parents. Apparently, they've been using culture and tradition as weapons her entire life. She's told me several other stories since our big talk that honestly make me sad for what she went through growing up. Now, for the second update. Hey everyone, it's been about 7 weeks since the baby shower. First, thank you so much to everyone who commented on my previous posts. The support has been incredible and helped us stay strong through what has honestly been the most stressful, amazing, terrible, wonderful few months of our lives. So after the baby shower confrontation, where I showed everyone the screenshots of their racist group chat messages, we basically had a complete meltdown of family relations. Our phones were blowing up for days, like literally dozens of calls and messages from various family members. Some were furious with us, mainly with me, let's be real, while others were more apologetic, sort of. Raymond and Sharon, the in-laws from hell, would alternate between demanding apologies from ME, the audacity, and then offering these super fake half apologies themselves. Like, "We're sorry if you were offended by our private conversations that you had no right to see." That kind of non-apology bullshit. They kept trying to frame me as this huge villain for violating family privacy and disrespecting elders, while completely downplaying their own racist comments as just letting off steam in what we thought was a private space. Like somehow calling me a culturally illiterate white boy and planning to exclude me from my child's life is just casual venting. I mean, am I crazy here? Oh, and get this. About 2 weeks after the shower incident, Sharon sent us this traditional Indian baby outfit with a note saying something like, "We at least want our grandchild to know something about her real heritage." The passive aggressiveness. I can't even. The extended family basically split into two camps. Some relatives fully sided with Raymond and Sharon and sent these long emails about Western disrespect of cultural values, also known as "how dare the white guy stand up for himself." But others actually reached out privately to apologize. There's this second cousin of Carla's who's married to a Korean guy, and she told us they had basically done the same thing to her husband for years. She said seeing our situation made her realize how messed up it all was. The most surprising development was with Holly, Carla's sister. She called about a week after the shower and actually apologized for not standing up for us. She was crying on the phone and everything. And then she started telling us all these stories about how controlling Raymond and Sharon have always been. Despite our best efforts to keep things calm, all this family stuff really affected Carla's health. Her blood pressure kept spiking at doctor's appointments, and they eventually ordered her on bed rest for the last few weeks of pregnancy. I felt so guilty, even though everyone kept telling me it wasn't my fault. But if I hadn't confronted them at the shower, maybe she wouldn't have been so stressed. I don't know. I still go back and forth about whether I handled things right. Anyway, Carla ended up going into labor a little early. Nothing dangerous, just 10 days before her due date. After 19 hours of labor, my wife is a warrior, our daughter Aria Sophia Patel Mitchell was born. 6.7 pounds of absolute perfection. We picked the name together, Aria because we both love music, Sophia after my grandmother, and we hyphenated our last names so she'd have both our heritages represented. Despite everything, we still sent birth announcements to Raymond and Sharon. Carla really wanted to give them a chance to be grandparents, and I supported her decision, even though part of me was like, why are we even trying with these people? But whatever, it's her family, and I get that these relationships are complicated. So they came to visit at the hospital 2 days after Aria was born. They brought all these expensive gifts and traditional items, which seemed nice at first. But then, they completely ignored me. Completely. They would talk around me, over me, through me, anything to avoid acknowledging my existence. And they kept referring to the baby exclusively as Priyanka, some Sanskrit name they had apparently chosen themselves. This is where things got really tense. They walked in with gifts but barely looked at me. Sharon immediately took the baby from Carla without asking. Raymond made a comment about how the baby fortunately had Carla's features with not much of me showing through, while I was right there. Sharon kept calling the baby Priyanka until Carla told her that her name was Aria. Raymond dismissed this, saying it was just temporary until the naming ceremony. I tried to calmly tell them we'd already chosen her name. Sharon acted like I hadn't spoken and continued talking about plans for a ceremony. When Carla more firmly repeated that our daughter's name was Aria Sophia Patel Mitchell, Raymond switched to speaking Gujarati. He didn't realize I'd been learning some basics since our last confrontation. He said something that basically meant he won't be around forever. I responded in my basic Gujarati that I understood what he said. Sharon looked shocked, then started mocking my pronunciation. After that, Raymond pulled out a calendar with a dozen upcoming religious ceremonies that were supposedly required for the baby. Carla told them that we would incorporate traditions, but on our terms, as her parents. Sharon accused me of erasing the child's cultural birthright, which was the final straw for Carla. She told them they wouldn't have a relationship with their granddaughter unless they showed respect for both her parents. She demanded they acknowledge their behavior and apologize. She said they needed to include me in all family discussions about our daughter. Raymond seemed shocked that Carla had never spoken to them this way before. Sharon started crying about how Carla had changed and was rejecting her upbringing. Carla stayed firm and asked them to leave until they could show basic respect for her choices and for me as her husband. They left, with Sharon yelling about Carla abandoning her culture and letting her husband erase her heritage. I was honestly in shock. I felt proud of Carla, but also horrible that she was put in that position because of me. In the weeks since, we've given them multiple chances to make amends. We even tried to have a family dinner at our place last week, but they showed up with some family priest who immediately tried to perform a traditional baby blessing without asking us first. It was so uncomfortable. They keep sending messages that switch between guilt trips about dying without knowing their granddaughter properly. They're both healthy and in their early 60s, by the way, and angry accusations about Carla betraying her blood. It's exhausting. Meanwhile, we had our own baby welcoming celebration at home with friends and supportive family from both sides. We incorporated meaningful elements from both our backgrounds. Carla's cousin helped us with some traditional Indian elements, and my mom made my grandmother's special cake recipe. It was beautiful and exactly what we wanted. My parents have been amazing through all this. They've even been learning basic Gujarati phrases and Indian cooking techniques to honor Carla's heritage. That's what respecting culture looks like, not whatever controlling BS Raymond and Sharon are pulling. Holly has actually become way closer with us through all this. She visits her niece regularly and has admitted that watching our situation has made her reconsider her own relationship with their parents. Several of Carla's cousins have stayed in touch too, and a couple have told her privately that her parents' behavior has been embarrassing and doesn't represent true Indian cultural values of family harmony. As for us, well, Carla started therapy to process all the family stuff. She's seeing that a lot of what her parents call cultural preservation is really just their way of controlling her. Our marriage has honestly gotten stronger through all this. We talk more openly about cultural differences and expectations now. We're still committed to raising Arya with appreciation for all aspects of her heritage. We're incorporating Indian traditions and celebrations into our family life, even without her grandparents' involvement. It's important to both of us that she knows and values that part of her identity. The situation is still really painful, Rove, especially for Carla. I sometimes find her crying while holding the baby, and I know she's thinking about her parents. But we've made the difficult choice to prioritize our daughter's emotional well-being over toxic family relationships. After their latest message accusing Carla of choosing whiteness over family, Carla finally replied that until they can show genuine respect for her husband and choices, they are effectively cut off from our family. It was probably the hardest email she's ever had to write. The door is still open for reconciliation, but we're focusing on building our own family culture based on mutual respect rather than prejudice disguised as tradition. It's not the situation we wanted, but it's where we are. I still sometimes wonder if I could have handled things differently, but I don't see how I could have just accepted being erased from my child's life. And seeing Carla stand up for our family unit, even though it breaks her heart, I don't have words for how much I respect her strength. Edit. Holy crap, this got long. Sorry about that. Sleep deprivation plus new baby plus family drama equals rambling post, I guess. Edit 2. To answer some common questions I'm seeing. Yes, we've documented everything in case this escalates further. No, we're not going to do the naming ceremony they want. Yes, I'm still learning Gujarati, badly lol, because I want our daughter to know that language regardless of the grandparents' involvement. For those asking about Carla's mental health, she's doing better with therapy, but still has really hard days. Postpartum hormones plus family estrangement is a rough combination. I'm trying to support her as best I can. Someone asked if this has affected how we'll approach cultural stuff with Arya. Honestly, it's made us more determined to incorporate genuine cultural traditions, just without the toxic control elements. We have some of Carla's cousins and friends who are helping us learn which traditions are meaningful versus which ones her parents were using as control tactic. Yes, we're still open to reconciliation if, big if, they can genuinely apologize and show respect going forward. But we're not holding our breath, and we're not going to accept half measures or fake apologies just for the sake of family peace. That ship has sailed.